Welcome to our YouTube channel on Success and Women. Women helping women.
Come join us.
See you soon. Welcome to this week's episode of Success and Women. I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea.
And today we're going to be talking about communication. What we've been doing for a year plus is communication. But before we begin that, Andrea's going to tell you her tip for the week.
Hi, ladies. Yes, you know how I love to do DIYs. Anyways, I found a new one about room sprays, because the things you buy in the store, they're full of chemicals. You don't know what's in there. But I found a way to make your own, and I love essential oils. I buy all of my essential oils from Melaleuca. I've talked about them before, and their oils are made with 100% natural grade oils. So what I do is I fill a spray bottle with water and put in a few drops of whatever scent you want to smell that day, like a cinnamon or orange or a combination, or if you like mint, peppermint. And some of the scents are for different moods. So depending, at nighttime you want lavender to calm you down. So you just put a few drops in and spritz away, and you can do that, you know, anywhere actually, in your car. You can put a few drops on your little Christmas tree when it runs out, or whatever other shape or form the whatever you call that. What is that called? Air freshener in your car. Yeah.
But I guess you can even put a small cloth, if you dampened it a little bit to get the scent in there. Put it under the seat, it would probably do the same thing.
Well, and yes, that's true. And then also in your drawers for your clothing, put a few drops on maybe a napkin or a cloth or a paper towel, and just shove it underneath your clothes. And every time you open that drawer,
they smell
beautiful. So there's a good way to do it naturally.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, whenever we find more natural, because Andrew and I are always looking at, I'll say, the most natural and back to basics type of things that we can, you know, offer, because in this world of chemicals, I think we have no choice. We've got to start going back to basics.
You have to advocate for your own health and your own self, because
and that's in your own environment, where you get the control.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about communication, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, and I was talking to Andrea, because I play a lot of games, and I play a lot of dominoes with my sister and her husband, and especially while we were in Florida, and we were playing, and one night my brother-in-law said after the game, because I was out of the running, I mean, oh my God, I got destroyed. But anyway, my sister and her husband were the ones that were competing to be the winner. And he asked at the end of the game, who won? And it's all to do with communication. And I looked at him directly and I said, you lost. I looked at my sister, Nancy, because he asked the question, who won? But what he heard was, you lost, Nancy. Now, you see the way I said it, you would think Nancy lost. But if I look at you and say, you lost, Nancy, I'm answering the question of who won by looking at Nancy and said, Nancy. Well, he got a little bit upset because he thought he won. Now, he only lost by 6 points, but the point was the way I communicated to him, he got the wrong message.
Yes.
And how many times in life can you receive the wrong message because it's either the tone or in an email, when people are sending you an email, whether it's a response, a request, whatever. And Andrea, you were just telling me too, on Facebook, how when people type a certain way, it comes across as?
If you're making a comment, and a lot of times I'll go in after I've read an article or seen something and look at the comments. And some of the comments will be like all capital letters. And to me, I was thinking to myself, oh, you know, they really feel strongly about that. And then somebody else commented below, You don't have to yell. And I'm thinking, oh, is that what that means? You're yelling? So it's all how people take things, understand things. So you have to be careful when you're communicating or when you're responding to an email. You know, I always say, you know, proofread it. Make sure punctuation is very important. It could be in the wrong spot and
But you see,
it comes
that's
out totally different.
And that's what happened with my brother-in-law, because when you speak, you don't see or hear the punctuation.
Yeah.
I didn't say, you lost, comma, Nancy.
Yeah.
But what I did was, I looked at him and said, you lost, looked at Nancy, answering his question, Nancy.
I know.
Meaning Nancy won. But you see how that could change the way people hear things. And as Judge Judy always said on her show, which I absolutely used to love watching, she said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. In communication, you should be listening more than you're speaking. And how many times for us, we want to get that last word in, but we miss.
Half of the question or the conversation beforehand. That's another thing. Sometimes you're having a conversation or whatever, and somebody can just pipe in, and you'll say, well, did you hear the whole conversation? Like you're piping in on the last little tidbits. And so they misunderstood the whole conversation. And then that could end up in a big argument, a big, fight, whatever. So many family feuds are over miscommunication or misplaced feelings. You know, instead of, and I always say, if you feel somebody's pulled back or you haven't heard from somebody for a while, there must be a reason. So, and most of us or most people will just say, forget them. No.
Yeah, if they can't be bothered with me, I'm not going to call them.
But if you call them and you say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while, is everything okay? A, it could be there's something going on in their life, or B, you said or done something that they took the wrong way. And it's happened to me a few times, and I've said, no, like, I didn't mean it like that. There was no malice intended. And then, you fix it all up.
Well, what's interesting that you mention this, and this goes way back in my family. I used to be very close to my oldest brother. And we would call each other on the phone. We had all these conversations and everything else. And at one point, I didn't hear from him. And I would call and leave a message, and he wasn't getting back. And finally, I got a hold of him, and I said, Bob, is something going on? Like, I haven't talked to you. And he'd go, no, nothing. No, nothing.
Red flag.
So right away, that's right. All of a sudden, there's a red flag. Okay, there's something going on. He didn't want to tell me. Okay, if he had got the communication out, we might be still friends today.
Sure.
But what happened was I found out from my mother that he was mad about something. I'm not saying whether he was right or I was right or who was wrong. It doesn't matter. But if at that time he expressed that he was upset about something in particular,
opening the door to communicate, and he didn't take it.
He didn't. And to this day, and I'm talking probably 20 years, we have minimal, and I mean minimal. I don't speak with him once a year. The only way that we would ever have any communication is if we're doing something, and I'm going to say for our mom, and we're having some family function that he ends up attending, then we might have a couple of words.
Civil.
But that will be in every 5 or 10 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I only remember a couple of times now when Mom turned 80. I think it was 80 when I had a party at my house.
Right.
And then we had something else one time, and I saw him. But other than that, and we used to be like best friends kind of thing. For brothers and sisters, that was pretty good.
Right.
And all because he got mad about something but wouldn't talk about it. And communication is so important to keep the doors and the lines open.
Right. And you were opening the door. He didn't even have to. I know for a lot of people it's hard to
make
that,
the first move.
To make the first move. But if somebody has done that, I mean, accept it, because you know how hard that you were not able to do it. Be thankful and grateful, especially a family member, because it disrupts the whole family.
Well, it does, and you know, Andrea, my youngest sister and I hadn't spoken for I don't know 2 or 3 years, and all because my ex-husband had said something to her that wasn't true, and he just said that I was really mad about something, and I wasn't. I never even expressed anything that would even indicate that I had any problems with my younger sister. And of course, she got really mad at what my ex had said, and then ended up leaving me a very nasty message.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, like I didn't even do anything. Anyway, because of all of that, we never spoke for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And I even asked my ex after, why did you say that to Cindy? And he goes, I don't know. Like, you know, he didn't care. He
Yeah.
just
It
was
didn't
just
affect him.
No, it was like he was just trying to be a little troublemaker.
Wow.
And it did. It made a big difference in our relationship. Now, years later, we had a family member get married, and we had to be at the same wedding. So it was our mother that said, listen, you guys have to make up. You have to talk. And when that happened, and I said, Mom, I didn't do anything. Like, I don't care. She doesn't want to talk to me. That's her right. She doesn't need to. And Cindy goes, well, I want to talk to you. She goes, and anyway, we had a chance to clear the air.
Perfect.
But it was only because we were forced into the same room, and our mom, you know, made us speak. But it almost seemed like nobody in the family wanted us. Was helping to get us back together. They talked to both of us, but they wouldn't say, you know, listen, why don't you guys just talk it out and get over this, because, you know, you used to be close and now you're not. Nobody wanted us to be close again. And I think for some people, they were threatened by our relationship.
And you have to be careful about that, especially in personal, but in business also.
Yeah.
Because rivalry is alive and kicking in the business world. And people can be mean, underhanded, evil, and, you know, make sure you know what's going on around you. And if something does happen like that all of a sudden out of the blue, a partner or a friend has stopped communicating, don't let it happen. Like, make that call, find out what's going on. All they can do is, you know, hang up on you or whatever, but
you tried.
You need to clear things up, because people out there would love to see you hurting or, you know, failing.
But Andrea,
and you can't let that happen. You have to make sure that you know what's going on around you. Just don't assume that you know, they're right and you're wrong, because 9 times out of 10, and it's happened to us in a lot of situations where I heard something about somebody saying something about my husband, and
that's what I was going to bring up, because I remember a perfect situation you told me.
And I could have let it go, and we could have just never spoken to those people again. But the first thing I did when I got home was picked up the phone, and I called that person, and I said, did you say this to this person? They were stunned. They had no idea. Those people were in our house within 5 minutes, and we cleared the air, and thank God we're still, you know, best friends forever. But if you let those things go, it can fester and fester for years for no reason. And those people that said these things, they were not friends of ours. You know what I mean? The original.
So they probably felt threatened because you had such a close relationship with that other couple that they were going to make trouble.
They wanted to make trouble. And the thing was too, what was said very mean, and it would hurt my husband deeply. But now the person could have said something about that, but not that way. But the other person made it a big deal, added some drama, added some adjectives, and the next thing you know, it's blown out of proportion. And there could go a lifetime friendship and a business client.
So, you know, communication is so important.
So important.
And even for example, when you're just communicating, say you're talking and you want to give a presentation, even at work. I know this is like, we talked a lot about the personal side, but in business, and you're communicating, and how you communicate and what people are hearing versus what you're saying. That's another thing that comes out all the time. And Tony Robbins has, you know, I listen to a lot of his stuff, but part of the reason is because he's a good communicator. And one of the things that Tony Robbins always says is that if you're giving a presentation and, you know, you're talking like this and, Andrew,
No,
we've had
it's a
these
lot,
problems and, you know, like I know it's hard to communicate, whatever, versus, you know, what's going on out there and the fact that we can't communicate with certain people, or when we want to present, we want them to really get the message. You got to throw yourself, your voice, your inflection, your body into communicating.
You got to grab attention.
You know, they say people talk with their hands kind of thing, but sometimes it's that way of communicating that people have, but it grabs your attention. But if you talk in this monotone, you lose people right away.
Oh,
and
yes.
I know I've gone to presentations, and I like, when I go to a presentation in person, I like to be really close to the front. I always say, because I want to see them sweat. But most of the time, if they're well prepared, they don't. But the point is, I'm always keen to listen and watch, and for gestures and everything else. But there are presentations and presenters where, like Tony Robbins would say, that it's so monotone and it depends on what they're trying to get across, but it's the wrong message.
Exactly.
So how are you communicating?
Yes.
Think about that. And if you're unsure, practice in front of a camera. I mean, in the old days, I couldn't do videos myself. So what I did was I tape recorded myself all the time when I was wanting to practice giving a presentation to, I'll say a group of people and colleagues, whatever. And when I worked for the federal government, I had to give presentations a lot. And so it's not a comfortable thing for most people.
Yeah.
You're not born, being a presenter. You have to learn the techniques to make you comfortable. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. So I would tape record myself. And because Zig Ziglar, who was like a master sales leader and trainer, said it's voice inflection. You need the rise and fall of your voice to keep people engaged.
It's true. Yes.
Because anybody who gets into these monotones will lose the audience.
That's right.
And so whether your audience is one person or a group of people, whether it's your family or a group of colleagues or an association, wherever you're giving your presentation, and that's why they've got Toastmasters. Toastmasters will be an organization to help you do public speaking, and they start with maybe you only stand up and talk in front of people for 1 minute. Then it might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, but they have a whole process to get you comfortable, because in life, and if you want to be successful, most of the time you're going to have to present to people some information.
Right.
And your husband's a builder. He's had lots of times to give presentations if he wants to win a contract.
Right.
And you got to be comfortable.
And City Hall, a lot of.
And City Hall.
City Hall is a big one. He's had to do a lot of presenting
Yeah.
there on why lots need to be severed, or,
Right.
different issues.
But you can see in life how you need to be able to communicate. And this is another thing. And we talked about this, Andrea, and it had to do with, I think, children. And how
Yes.
there was a story you were just telling me about, I think, how a parent was trying to communicate with their children. And then you went and you said, but if you did it this way, it was just part of it.
Having a conversation with them, like at first you could say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? How's school?
No, but even to get across when they're, I'm going to say, misbehaving. Because sometimes, and I think we may have been talking even about autistic children, but that wasn't even just the whole thing. But part of it, yes, because we got talking because her daughter has some autistic children in her classroom. And sometimes the communication that she does is just to, when the child is really misbehaving, is just to be able to hold them, to calm them.
Yeah.
That's a silent communication, but that could be related.
That's what he needs.
That's what he needs. That's how he relates. That's how he can communicate. But there's other times in a children's life, if you don't communicate with them, I'm going to say at their level, but I'm not talking about baby talking to them, but talking to them in a way that they understand, treating them like a person in
Because
that way to explain.
If a child's acting up, there's a reason.
Yes.
They could be playing and all of a sudden they're jumping or they're yelling and you have to learn to communicate and just say, hey, what's happening? Are you okay? You have to ask them their feelings.
Yes.
And most parents will say, you stop that right now, or you're going to bed.
Exactly.
Or that's not the way to talk, because you wouldn't talk to your friend like that or your spouse like that. You'd say, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And if you learn to communicate at that age, then communication will always be great. As they grow older, you can get their feelings out of them more easily. And I always say to my grandson, if you don't tell me what's wrong, I cannot help you. So please tell me, it's okay, whatever you're feeling. If you're mad at me or if you're upset about something, just tell me and I will see if I can help you. And then he'll calm down and he'll explain as best as he can. And we figure it out. And I said, see, wasn't that easy? We fixed it. So the next time it will be easier.
Yeah.
He'll understand that I can help him fix things.
Right.
But if you don't, you have to have patience with children.
Yeah.
And communication is key with children.
It really is, because you can't just keep telling them no, no, no.
Exactly.
What's the first word that babies learn?
No.
That's not a good word.
But if you do say no, there should always be an explanation why it's a no. Like, no, because of course that's your first reaction to go to touch something. And, I'll say, no, it's not that I don't want you to do this, but if you do, you could burn yourself, or it's hot, injure yourself. And then they learn. Yeah,
that's jumping off, say, the back of the sofa, climbing on there, or climbing on the table so they can jump down, like they're Superman or something. You have to explain these things.
Yeah,
they could get hurt.
Stop jumping on the couch. Just say, honey, listen, I know you're having fun, but if you fall off that couch and hit your head, we'll be in the hospital. Yeah. We'll have to go see the doctor.
I broke my wrist when I was a kid. Didn't realize climbing on the counter was a bad thing until I fell off the counter, put the hand down, and it broke.
Right.
So had my parents been, I'll say, I'm not blaming them, okay, really. I was in the kitchen trying to get something on the top shelf of the
like
cupboard.
We all did.
Yeah, like we all did. But again, and now my parents didn't, get upset with me because they were so upset themselves that it happened. But the whole point is that when you do catch your child, climbing on things, this is when you get to have a learning moment of what could happen.
Right.
And whether you broke your a bone or something, you might know somebody else that did, and you can explain to them, this is what could happen. But listen, I'll take you to the park, and they have monkey bars there, and they've got different things where you can climb and you can do all these things, hopefully in a safer environment than at the house.
Yeah, and your eyes are glued on them when you're at a park.
Yes, and the eyes are glued when you're at the park. It's true, because, you're off in the kitchen, and back when I was growing up, our kitchen had a wall. There wasn't like an open concept like today. Right. And so my parents would not have seen me. They were in the living room, and, I was in the kitchen. And nobody was in there with me, and it happened.
So ladies, we need to learn how to communicate and be clear on what we want heard and what we want people to, react to. So and we want the right reaction, not the wrong reaction.
Yeah, and going along with the communication, words are important.
They are. So
make sure that you're aware of the words that you're using when you're communicating and what message you're really trying to get across. But remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. This is Linda Levesque for
And-
this week's episode of Success in Women.
I'm Andrea.
And remember to
Like,
share
and please subscribe, and come and see us on TikTok.
TikTok.